The House of Representatives just passed a bill that would ban TikTok, and I have thoughts. Hi, I'm Nick. This is 10 Minutes with Nick, and today we're going to have a wee little discussion about the First Amendment and also this TikTok ban that got passed. Okay. First things first. The TikTok ban. What does the TikTok ban do? Well, it says that the Chinese company that owns TikTok, owns the app TikTok, has to divest TikTok from itself within a certain or a Chinese company rather, not hold a majority ownership position in the app TikTok. There is a new number of security reasons that this is being done. The bill passed by a surprisingly large margin, indicating that there was some serious bipartisan support for it. There was only 62 votes against, I think, which in the House of Representatives is quite a small number of votes. Okay, that's the general situation on the ground, or something like that. We're talking about the app that chitlins dance on. Now, the problem is, and this was a problem long before this discussion came up, most of people nowadays, I don't use TikTok, right? So I don't necessarily know this, but I know a lot of people who get the majority of their news from TikTok. The majority of their news. World events are shaped by people's understanding that has been generated from an app where children dance. The stupidity of that should weigh heavily on us as a society. But the fact is that we also have to deal with it as it stands. Okay. So, that is the situation on the ground. First things first. The First Amendment, it does not exist unrestricted. There is no such thing as unrestricted, unregulated free speech. For example, you do not have the right to celebrate. You do not have the right to say fire in a crowded theater. That language comes from a very specific First Amendment case back in the day. But the general thrust of that case is you cannot use your words to create a panic. Right? So that is a restriction on free speech. You do not have unlimited free speech, even in public forums. And the First Amendment and the Bill of Rights overall only restricts the power of the government to regulate your free speech. Something important to keep in mind. Like, I don't have to let you, if you're in my house and you're just like insulting me, I don't have to let you just insult me in my house under the guise of free speech. I am a private citizen. I can force you to leave my home or even my premises. I am a restaurant. You come into my restaurant and you start holding up signs picketing for your favorite cause. I can tell you to get the flip out. What I can't do, I can even call the police and say this person is trespassing. They are no longer invited on my property. Remove them from my property. What I cannot do is walk into the public square, public property of some variety, and say, this person's speech is offending me in this public forum. I demand that they be silenced. That's not a thing. Can't do that. You can, in the public forum, either state your own speech, or you can walk away. You can not listen. You're allowed to not listen. That's a thing you can also do. But the First Amendment has never not been completely free and unregulated. The power of free speech is meant to really protect the power of the press and the freedom of religion in the country. And the freedom of religion is not the freedom to be one religion, right? There's no state religion. It is the freedom to practice your faith as you see fit without restriction from the government. Now, that's led to some very weird tax laws around religion. Those are a topic for another day. It's meant to protect the ability of people to speak out against the government generally. It's meant to protect your ability to say, I don't like what the president is doing. I don't like what Congress is doing. So first and foremost, if you're against this bill, speak out. That's 100% your right. Where we're going to get dicey here is that this is a government bill requiring a restriction on an app that is owned by a private company, but that has, by practice, largely become a public forum. And this is where the conversation gets interesting, my friends. TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and Threads, even though I don't think anyone really uses Threads anymore, they've all essentially become methods of expressing yourself, but methods of expressing not only creative speech, not only business speech, but of political speech. TikTok has become a forum for the open discussion and advancing of political ideas, and not only political ideas, but newsworthy ideas. News is communicated through these forums. They are, in a lot of ways, both the overlap of the public forum and the press. So the question becomes, does this law infringe on the ability of individuals to express political speech in a public forum? And this is where we're going to get into a weird discussion with this going forward. We're not going to get into a weird discussion here. I only have 10 minutes. But we're going to get into a weird discussion here. Because does the law say that TikTok must go away? Or does it simply say the company that owns TikTok has a history of security risks that are a threat to the country, and somebody else has to run this app? You're no longer allowed to do this. Is the government punishing a private company for legitimate concerns and legitimate reasons, or are they restricting a public forum for the freedom of speech? It's been interesting to see who's on what side of this argument. I've been seeing a lot of people who are, what you might say, strong right wing, who are very against this, who are very in favor of government reaching in and preventing the algorithm. It's weird. We're getting into weird public-private areas here. And when you start to dig into this is where it's going to get tricky. It's that public-private separation. Because the government can't restrict speech in a public forum. In some ways they can, but you can't cause a panic in a public forum. But in some ways, government can't restrict free speech in a public forum, and it can't really restrict that public forum. Okay, that's fine. But is TikTok a public forum? No matter, it doesn't matter. And let's say, in many practical ways, it looks like a public forum. It looks like the town square. We don't have a town square anymore. TikTok, looks like a town square. It looks like the main place where ideas are exchanged. But what if that public square is the reason that data is getting stolen and secrets are being leaked, and quite honestly, that people are being hurt? What do we do? I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. It's a 10-minute podcast. I don't have an answer. I don't have a ton of research done on it yet. The question behind it is interesting, though, because we've been wrestling with this topic before now, and now we have to come to grips with it in this moment as this bill comes up, because we, the people, have to make a decision on this. Do we have to make a decision on the law? No, our representatives are currently making a decision on this law. But if you don't like it, you need to start calling your senators like toot sweet, because number one, they don't get text because they're all 80, 90 years old and they're not great at texting. But number two, if you don't like this bill, it's moving to a law relatively quickly, especially with the amount of bipartisan support it has. There's a concern here. And the concern from one side is that, these guys are just deeply entrenching their power. They're trying to reinforce their power because they're afraid of TikTok. Which is a sentence I never thought I would say 10 years ago, but here we are. If you don't like this law, call your representatives. Exercise your free speech. But you're going to have to call them and not use TikTok. TikTok's not going to work for you. It didn't work anyway. And remember, you can always sue and try and get a law overturned on constitutional grounds. Somebody will. Maybe the ACLU. I don't know. I'm out of time. Thank you for listening. If you like it, subscribe. If you don't like it, I can't help that. I do these every day, and I enjoy them. So come at me, bro. Leave a comment, like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'm Nick. This is 10 Minutes with Nick. Have yourself a great day.